What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby, and we're going to be going over the Week 18 main slate. It's a every year Week 18. It's crazy, or whatever is the end of the year week because we added some games. So normally we have 16, and so the last couple of years we've had 17. But this is the week where you can play. You can leave a lot of salary, and you can play just about anybody, and it's a crazy week.
Yeah,
So
it's a good week to get weird. And of course, we're recording this Wednesday morning, so there's a lot of unknowns in terms of practice, but we do know teams that are locked in, implying that they're going to be
right.
resting. Some teams that have already reported that they're going to rest. And so there's a lot of bobbing and weaving that we're going to have to do later in the week. But for now, we'll just kind of break down what we know and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, tell me some well, I know that the totals are going to be lower, but tell me about the totals before we get into the actual slate itself.
Yeah, the totals are pretty low across the board. The highest total is the Panthers and the Falcons at 48. Next is the Jags and Colts at 45.5. That was a big game, middle of the season. Cowboys, Commanders, the third highest total at 44. Saints at Bucks, 43.5. And then the 49ers and the Cardinals playing for nothing at 43. A couple of contrarian games that I wanted to point out was the Chargers and Raiders at 41, and then the Seahawks Rams at 39.5.
Yeah, let's also I know that we're going to have some teams that are obviously going to sit players. That's what week 18 is. Let's go over the teams we expect to sit players and who just like the whole team might sit, not
Yeah,
just like
so
one player here or there.
there's four teams that are locked in to their respective seeds. So the Chiefs are locked in at the 1. The Bills are locked in at the 2. The Houston Texans are locked in at the 4. And then on the NFC side, the Philadelphia Eagles are locked in at the 2. Everybody else is kind of unknown. We will also know Sunday morning with all the AFC North matchups taking place on Saturday. If the Steelers win against the Bengals, then the Chargers would also be locked in at the 6. So that's kind of a wait and see thing with that one. And then also the Rams, who are notorious for resting players, have already come out saying that they might rest regardless of not being locked into the 3 or the 4. They right now are a win and they are the 3. But if they lose, then whoever the NFC North is has a chance to overtake them.
Right, and if the AFC North,
South.
if I do believe if the Pittsburgh Steelers lose, then we have 1 through 6 in the AFC locked in, basically, because then you get the Chargers locked, and then you'd also get the Baltimore Ravens locking into the 3 spot, if I'm correct.
Yeah, well, the Chargers would have to win also to lock themselves at 3,
Right,
because if they lost, then they would be the 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty chalky in terms of the AFC teams and what we know. And then, but again, we won't have to worry about that until Sunday morning. And if there is, then value can open up because the Raiders may or may not be trying as well.
Fair, yeah. Let's pull the screen up and talk about the slate a little bit. Some of the teams that we expect to play include we have Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders playing against Dallas. We think Washington will play, so to improve seeding and stuff like that. They
So
don't have any
them
other
and
reason.
the Green Bay Packers are fighting for seeding. So one's gonna have to play Philly
Right.
on the road, and then one's gonna have to play either the Rams or I would say the Bucks slash Falcons on the road. And so the Commanders being at home, being against the Cowboys, or I'm sorry, being on the road, but in a good dome environment. We saw the crazy finish that happened earlier in the season with the or not the Hail Mary, but the 82-yard
Yeah, that was insane
touchdown,
game.
missed extra point, all that goodness. We targeted that game pretty heavily, and it worked out for the most part when we did. So yeah, Jaden Daniels on Sunday Night Football came through and just killed it again. Back-to-back games with over 35 points. And then you got a solid 23.6 and 28.6 finish.
Yeah.
In the weeks prior to that as well. He's just hitting his stride at the right time, especially from a fantasy perspective, and then really unlocking his rushing upside as well. Even though he hasn't had a rushing touchdown the last 3 games, 127, which I believe is a season high on 16 attempts. Just crazy volume, and they're just saying this season's going where you're taking it,
Right.
which is always good to see.
Yeah, and so going to his pass catchers, actually the guy that saved the slate was Zacchaeus. He was the one that kind of made it. If you had him in your line, you were gonna win some money. If you didn't, you were hurting probably. 23 point. Wow, that was crazy. 23.3 points, 9 targets, and in the last 2 games, he's actually emerged as the number two.
Yeah, so
So,
Noah Brown was out for the year, and then also De'Ami Brown has missed a
mhm.
couple of games, or last week. I'd assume that he would be out again this week, but he had a season high 76% of the snaps. Once again, just killed it from a target perspective. Terry McLaurin only had 1 catch for 5 yards, despite playing more. But yeah, his price just did not adjust at all, and I would expect him to be one of the more popular value plays.
Yeah, and then Zach Ertz,
Mm.
you can get to him if you're gonna go with the stack. He's inconsistent, of course. You get these two target games, but if you can get 12 points out of Zach Ertz, you're pretty happy at 4,000, I think, especially on a week that's really weird with low totals and all that stuff. But 25 points, we're really happy.
Right.
We're singing. So he's in the pool for sure if you're going to take Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, his price is still solid, and there are some guys playing for incentives that we wanted to point out. He is a long shot on his because he has like a 70 reception
Right.
bonus, a 700-yard bonus, and 8 touchdown bonus. He basically has to go 9 for 90 for 2 touchdowns just to get all of those, and that's probably not going to happen. But if it does, and you played him, you're going to be very, very happy.
I mean, he's really trying. Last week getting those two
he
touchdowns, he's pushing it. He's trying to get up there. So let's see if his quarterback tries to reward him for coming and helping him. You veterans, man. They love these rookies. They need veterans like Zach Ertz, and that's why Jaden appreciates him. I'm sure. Brian Robinson Jr. Just wanted to put him on here for 6,000.
Yeah, he's still
reasonable to talk
Austin
about.
Eckler's still out on IR and may or may not return for the postseason. But yeah, he's just had 3 straight real duds, honestly, since being the just complete workhorse RB1. And even in a positive game environment, he really didn't do a ton to warrant the price tag. 6,000, not terribly overpriced, but he's just kind of, if you want a piece of this game and you're not able to afford a stack, he's the pivot off of that.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's go over to the next team. And let me go ahead and go to quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield. And I think Baker will be the most rostered player, quarterback, anything this week because he's been so good, first off.
Yeah, and then with all these quarterbacks up top, like
Exactly.
Josh Allen don't expect to play, Jalen Hurts don't expect to play. Obviously, Jaden Daniels we just talked about, but Baker coming off a 5 touchdown performance and then playing New Orleans, who I believe that was the game where he had nearly 400 yards, 3 picks, but also 4 touchdowns, and they had 52 points after the first quarter. Yeah, that was a crazy good target game. And on top of that, Mike Evans, trying to extend his streak. He has the most valuable incentive to get. If he gets 5 for 85, that'll be a $3 million bonus. And then on top of that, getting that 1,000-yard for the 11th straight season, which is completely unprecedented. But last week, obviously, won you a championship, won you a best ball league, whatever you want to call it. But 2 of the last 3 games has had multiple touchdowns. Didn't have to throw it a ton because they were up by so much against the Panthers, but almost got to that 100-yard bonus as well. He's just been killing it lately, and I'd expect him to be the most popular receiver up top this week.
Well, I mean, and like you said, we know he's playing. We know they have to win because of the fact that they, with Atlanta, that situation, they actually control their destiny. So if they win, they're in. If they lose, Atlanta gets to just, if Atlanta wins, they're in. So we have that situation going on. Jalen McMillan, I tried to fade him last week. It was wrong. I was bad on me. He had 2 touchdowns, of course. He's got 6 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. Just pick Baker's receivers. It is what it is. Like Baker is just.
Well, at the end of the day, we were on the right side of a lot of things. Payne caught a touchdown and killed value. Bucky Irving had 160 plus all-purpose yards as a workhorse back. And on the Baker lines that we did play, we did a double stack. Bucky and Mike. So it wasn't the wrong thing to do. But yeah, once again, another killer performance, and his just salary is creeping up, but not enough yet.
You ready though? And of course, Kate Otten might be back. He's questionable, but if he doesn't play, Payne Durham at 3,200 is definitely an option. Running back wise, you have to get to Bucky this week. There's a big 4. for running backs this week. So we'll talk about those guys in a second. But basically, Bucky, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs are all at the top, and they're all going to play. So those are the big four this week, and I expect one of them to be in all of our lines,
And
basically.
even though Baker Mayfield had a 4-touchdown, 325-yard performance against the Saints last time, this was also the game where Sean Tucker,
Mm-hmm.
as a .001 optimal, having 136 rushing yards, and then Bucky also had 100 all-purpose yards in the score as well. He was the chalky guy that week because Rachaad White missed, but now he's the workhorse. Rachaad White is playing, but it doesn't matter because he's still getting the 20 touches or 20 opportunities, and so he is a $5 running back clearly up top, and his price jumped up by 1,000. I'm glad because otherwise he probably would have been the chalkiest of chalk.
Yep, 55% last week for Bucky, one of the highest of the year for him when Rachaad White is playing. So, yep, he's a good play up top. Let's go to the next team because we do have to talk about a guy. We did miss this one. This is one that I can just say we talked about on the stream. If you're on here on Sunday, I'm gonna put Anthony Richardson in for now. I guess he's questionable, but if he does play, he'll be the guy. JT, but we missed on our wide receiver choices for this team. It was ridiculous. First off,
Yeah,
so,
we decided to do a single stack, no bring back, and well, not only was that wrong, we didn't even get the right receiver
Yeah.
because Alec Pierce went for 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. went for a touchdown and 100 yards, and on top of that, Malik Neighbors on the other side had 2 touchdowns and 170 yards.
Yeah.
So we were right, but very wrong at the same time, and it was very unfortunate. Obviously, it's a different scheme and style the way you play the Colts if Anthony Richardson's out compared to if he's in. And if Flacco's in, then you know he's not going to run it. So JT's going to have his rushing upside, which last week had 100 yards, 2 touchdowns once again. And then on top of that, the receivers is pretty clear cut that he's just going to target receivers. They're all the same price, so it's kind of tough.
Yeah, and then looking at what we did last week is we played Josh Downs, and he was somehow a 3 reception, 22-yarder, 5.2 points. One of his worst performances, I think, with Joe Flacco, like just as a fully healthy guy. JT, we had just said he's 4 at the top, and JT is sitting here at the top with, his last 2 games, 30.6 points and 42.8. That's freaking insane, first off. He
So
finally got repriced correctly.
Yeah, he won me a couple championships with that performance. It was awesome to see. But what's also interesting, just one more tidbit about the receivers was Alec Pierce played 95% of the snaps, which is by far a season high as well. So even 2 receiver sets he was in over Josh Downs, which is crazy because last time we saw Joe Flacco, he was just peppering Josh Downs with targets, touches, and they were playing him a ton. And now it just seems like they're just saying he's wide receiver 3. A.D. Mitchell is just a complete afterthought. Went from 89% of the snaps the week prior when Alec Pierce was out to 9% this week.
Okay. Well, whatever. We shouted him out. It would have been wrong too. We just didn't get the right receivers on this team. Going over though to our next guy, Justin Herbert will be playing most likely. Well, just kidding. I actually expect Cincinnati to win. I'm on the Cincinnati side, so he will not be playing if that game ends how I expect. I don't think.
Well, I mean, again, they would have to win in order to get that 5 seed.
Oh, they're still behind. You're right. Yeah.
So
they
would
still
need
would
to
have
win.
to play. You're right.
I'd expect him to play, but yeah, he is too cheap at 5,900. Problem is he just doesn't have that 300-yard upside this year. But you saw against the Patriots how he can just as well go for those boom weeks without those yardage totals. Obviously, Ladd McConkey killed it with his performance as well, and they didn't need to do much in the fourth quarter because they were up by so much.
It's going to be really hard for me to get away from Ladd as like a pivot off of some of these higher guys,
right?
When he's been so good, and like there's not a lot of like I can make any line I want this week. It feels like
there's not many receivers up top that are going to play and are expensive and tough to get to, and it's basically Mike Evans and the 3 rookie receivers that are just crushing it: BTJ, Malik Neighbors, and Ladd McConkey. But Ladd's the cheapest, and on top of that, last time he did play the Raiders, I believe he had a really strong performance as well.
Right.
So, obviously, and on top of that, with Josh Downs leaving, he's a question mark. But if you're going to stack this team at all, it starts with Ladd, and even doing a single with just Ladd because of how efficient he's been with his targets, I don't mind that at all.
I was also going to say right now, Puka Nakua shows us the highest fantasy point value
Hmm.
overall by receivers, but I don't expect him to
Yeah,
play. So it doesn't really, there's
exactly,
a lot
exactly.
of things on on all your projections. If you're doing a projection sheet or you're creating something like through a website, make sure you take out the guys you expect to be out, maybe push up the guys that you expect to be in, those types of things and adjust because you're going to see where these guys aren't going to play, and then it's going to be really awkward that you have them in your line. So don't play this like a normal week, is all I'm saying. But I didn't mean to do that. But okay. So Quinn Johnston is so. Let me preface. Josh Palmer is Q tagged right now. I'd expect him to be out. I thought, right?
Well, they said he was in a walking boot. You don't know if that's precautionary or not. He also played on Saturday, so he has an extra day to be healthy. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't anticipate him playing
yeah,
if, especially if, like, you should handle the Raiders even if you had your
agreed.
backups in almost. So with Josh Palmer being out, that just kind of helps a little bit be a little more confident. Quentin Johnston, who's
Yes,
just been extreme hit or miss. But last week he at least had a ton of targets as well. Um, Obviously, 42 for 525 doesn't get you excited at all, but the 8 touchdowns does. So that just kind of is what it is with that. And then Will Disley, 3,600. He's had boom games, but also he's not getting targeted since he's returned from injury. So you just don't know there.
yeah. It's a really weird. I don't know how I feel about Will Disley right now,
Hmm.
but if I was gonna, I guess double stack Justin, it would be hoping that Josh Palmer's out, going Ladd and Quentin Johnston. The next guy on our list will be, let's see,
Mr.
Geno
Gino.
Smith. All righty then, Geno
And
Smith, and I guess we're pricing up Zach Charbonnet all the way up to 6,700 because
because,
IR,
yeah, Ken
Kenneth
Walker
Walker's on
set
IR.
on IR. Obviously, he was a bad beat for, the Thursday night game because he just was really on pace for his yardage totals. I think it was the final right before the kickoff was 67, and he had 50 at halftime, and he got 9 yards the entire second half in the pouring rain while they were leading, and they just I don't know what happened, but again, he's just going to get all the touches out of the backfield. 67 is still pretty modestly priced,
Yeah,
even though he has been jumped up, but also JSN Metcalf are also decently priced. And last time they did play the Rams, this was a really close game that went down to overtime. And Geno Smith had 363 yards and 3 touchdowns, also 3 picks. But JSN, without DK Metcalf in the game, had 7 for 180. That was the start of his just
mm-hmm.
crazy run that he's been on. Obviously, put up a dead last week. Weather conditions, also playing from ahead, all that good stuff is why he ended up not working out if you did start him. But this entire team's kind of on the board against the Rams, especially being in a dome. On top of that, if the Rams are going to be resting, that's a whole another thing that just kind of adds to it. The Seahawks were going to be playing for the division, but because of the tiebreakers that we were talking about, didn't work out in their favor. They are eliminated. But right now, on the road, being 5.5 point favorites, I would expect that is implying that Vegas thinks that the Rams are going to rest and Seahawks will be playing from ahead and scoring points when they're doing that.
Yeah, and we are going to expect them to play then, because it's the last game of the season. Is
Yes,
what you're saying. Okay. All right. I hope so. But I'm actually more
and
I pull
and
back a little bit because and actually I want to say DK Metcalf has had so many injuries this year. I
right,
could see them just being like, "Hey, let's sit him this week. There's no point in playing him. Let's just
that would be cool.
put him on the side and play JSN and go be happy."
Right,
So, because he has had some serious injuries this year, just like consistently lingering on him. So he might be a guy that gets to sit the bench this week. Going to the next game, we talked about Atlanta. Atlanta is playing Carolina. They should handle Carolina. They're the last. They're 32nd against running back. So we will be talking about Bijan.
yeah, by
Bijan
far dead
is
last. He will be our thumbnail for this week.
yes.
Obviously, against Carolina, being a 5 box running back, being a favorite, he's starting to get all the touches out of the backfield. Coming off a 2 touchdown performance on Sunday night against the Commanders.
Hmm.
But last time they did play, this was way back in week 6. And obviously the Falcons put up 38 points And the reason they did that was a lot of their run game. Tyler Algier had 100 yards and a touchdown, and
Hmm.
Bijan had 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. So basically, combined, having over 200 yards all purpose and 3 touchdowns between the two. And because they are, win or go home, on top of that, they need help. But it's going on as the same time as the Bucks. So they're going to be playing hard, fast, and they're going to be riding this guy, Mr. Bijan.
Yep, he does everything for them. And I've seen a lot of people saying like, "Oh, Michael Penix came in and Bijan's been sniping him." Like that's what actually you should hope for. Like you want a young quarterback to have a running back that can go and run for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you don't have to worry nearly as much.
Mm-hmm.
Penix has been okay. He hasn't done anything wow. 54.3% last week, but he did. He is at the end of games. He was making it work. Drake London had a great out route. I don't know. It was like a 20-yard out route. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know what the route was. I guess maybe it was a corner, but they got cut off short because they were over top or something. But that route was crazy. He was wide open, getting them down there. They end up losing that game in overtime, which was It was a lot of fun. That game was a ton of fun to
Right.
watch. But it was
Yeah, and Penix is playing much better than his fantasy stats at least indicate. Only, hasn't even combined to have 20 points in the last 2 games, but it's just he hasn't really been involved on the scores and touchdowns.
yeah,
And if you're not on the Bijan side of things, obviously Michael Penix being at $5,400, being at home in a dome
Carolina.
like Carolina,
Yeah.
who's giving up a lot of points. They just gave up 5 touchdowns to Baker Mayfield this past week. That's just kind of an area you want to target if you're not going the Bijan side of things.
Yeah, and then you have to pair him with Drake London. Drake London at 6,500. We know he's going to play. He has had insane touchdown regression throughout the year. 1 touchdown the last 5 weeks, but like if you look, his first 6 weeks he had 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
First 7 weeks he had 5 touchdowns. Since then he had 2. It's week 18,
Mm-hmm.
so that's his biggest issue. So if you can get Drake London scoring touchdowns, he at 6,500, you're really happy because he is going to get a very very hefty amount of targets.
Yeah, and very modestly priced.
Yeah.
The only thing is just how do you double? Other
Yeah.
than just kind of finding ways to just afford the 2 guys that are going to touch the ball the most, similar to what we did with Baker last week.
Mhm.
Because Darnell Mooney had a huge stud this past week. I think he had 2 for 37. Ray McLeod also a dud. And then remember on the live stream we were just fake Kyle Pitts. Well, he caught a touchdown, 4 for 44 in a score.
That's okay at 4,000.
Yeah,
We take that.
We'll take that every day. So I don't want to play him, but it's there, So there's options for this team. It just depends on what route you want to go. I probably side with the run game and the Bijan side of things.
Yeah.
But just worth mentioning because of the value at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on Bijan here. If we're gonna pick one turn, like if we're gonna go one side of it and just like only play one line, I'm on Bijan. Quarterback for the last quarterback of this grouping is free. So we got to go all the way down to 4,000. I might even not be able to find him. Where is he? Josh. There you go.
Mr. Josh Dobbs. Yeah, this happened after prices just came out. Brock Purdy had a killer game against the Lions on Monday Night Football. However, he hurt his elbow at the very end, and it looked bad as soon as he went back to the sideline. He couldn't even grip a football, essentially, when he was throwing. So Josh Dobbs came in. He's minimum priced, and basically, I don't know how to pair him up other than just say insert George Kittle and figure it out.
Yeah.
But Ricky Pearsall obviously was won you a lot of money if you invested in him. $4,100. His price didn't change because these prices came out before. But yeah, they just heavily was like, we're out of the playoffs. We're just going to see what you got. And Juwan Jennings had an okay game. Debo only scored a touchdown, and basically that was all
Only
he did.
thing he did, yeah.
But Ricky Pearsall, 72% of the snaps in Week 16, 70% last week, but just led the team in yards, touchdowns, targets, air yards, all you want to do. I don't know if he can repeat that and replicate that against Josh or with Josh Dobbs instead. But very, very cheap if you went that route.
Well, I was gonna say too, like, and we should have kind of seen the writing on the wall. Team is eliminated. Should have been like, oh, well, maybe they're gonna try to get their first round rookie wide receiver who got shot before the year some targets. Well, they absolutely did. I think even the forcing of the ball, both interceptions were on the same route to him, to Ricky Pearsall,
Right.
over the middle of the field. So I would expect, I feel like they were game planning to get him the ball as much as possible and put him in the Ayuk role, and he had a big game. And then Brock Purdy getting hurt late in the game. He got he got landed on. So we will get Josh Dobbs, but Josh Dobbs put up a good amount of points
Yeah,
last year, if I
he was a
remember.
fantasy darling for a month
Yeah.
until it just was no longer a thing. But last time we saw Arizona and San Fran play, it came down to the wire, 24-23 on a walk-off field goal for the Arizona Cardinals. But Brandon Ayuk at the time 8 for 147. Kittle had 8 for 64 in the score, so he killed it as a tight end. And then Jordan Mason. Remember Jordan Mason, guys? He was a workhorse back. He did okay, had 98 yards, but he did not score. And I believe he was just another chalky guy that just didn't pan out that week. So
Right. So let's go over to running backs because there's some running backs that we kind of have to talk about. This is a slate where I'm going to be honest. I want 3 running backs in almost all my lines this week.
Yeah,
because there are so many
there's going to be
good
a lot
running
of
backs.
lot of cheap and values down low, and again, there could be more that open up. But up top, we've already talked about Bijan. We've already talked about Bucky Irving,
JT,
Jonathan Taylor a little bit. Josh Jacobs also fighting for seeding, $8,100. They're playing the Bears at home, 9-point favorite. So clear 5-box running back up top again for him as well. And he basically had such a streak of just 20 points after every single week for 7 straight weeks. Last week was a dud. But again, they're favored this week, and it's a much, much better matchup than the Vikings.
Yeah, absolutely. Some other guys to talk about. If I don't expect James Cook to play because they're locked in. So he is.
If he does play,
but if he does, he's been great.
Obviously, a great spot. And then against New England, what they did 2 weeks ago. Because they played 2 of the last 3 weeks. Pulling up that game right now. But the Patriots played them close, but Cook on only 11 carries had 100 yards and a score, and then he also had another touchdown through the air as well. So he killed it. I think he had a 30-point day, which is you love to see. And if he doesn't play, Ray Davis down low at 5,200. We saw what he did in his one-spot start against the Jets, which at the time was a tough matchup. He still had 150 all-purpose yards. He's $5,200. So if he's going to get all the workload, he's basically, a 4.5-box running back in a great spot as well.
The person that scares me the most is Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
In that situation,
That's
because
fair.
he's actually had more snaps. But the problem is when he's had consistent 35% snaps, while when James Cook was out, Ray Davis went to 60 instead of his normal 20. So it's just a little weird, but I agree. And then if you go ahead and look at Achan's an option here.
Yeah, they're the first team if if Denver ends up losing, Miami's the first team in if they do win. It's not Cincinnati any longer because of strength of record and what have you. But Devon Achane is their wide receiver too. They sucked last week. It was a bad weather game. Tua didn't play. Good fade by us up top, but his price dropped. And if Tua is back because it's win or go home, Devon Achane's back in. I don't expect Waddle to play, so he's just gonna have all the upside in the world. If Tua plays, Devon Achane is a great spot.
Yeah, and then the next grouping, the mid-tier guys, we did talk a little bit about J.K. Dobbins. Oh, well, I don't know if we actually got to J.K. when we looked at the Chargers.
They didn't play the Raiders since week 1, but that was the week that basically everybody was healthy, and he had 10 for 135 in a score, limited touches, and just maximum productivity. He first game back from IR last week without Gus Edwards, had 20 opportunities, didn't score, or he did score late. I'm sorry, but 15 points, modest production, but being against the Raiders, if Gus is out again, he just is in another fantastic spot.
Absolutely. And then, so Tony Pollard is next. He's questionable. If he does play, I don't expect Tyjae Spears to play. So I don't know why he's got
suffered his second concussion of the season, so I'd expect him to be out for the season. Tony Pollard has one of the incentive bonuses that we wanted to bring up. Tony Pollard, 83 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns will get him an extra $450,000. Houston, like we said earlier in the episode, are locked into the 4. They have nothing to play for, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Titans were a pick'em. It's a Houston -1 now.
Okay.
But I would expect Houston to be resting their players. And Tony Pollard, again, in a good spot, would be a 5-box running back if indeed we get confirmation later in the week that Houston's just going to rest and punt on this game.
So if he is out, if they're both out, say, Julius Chestnut is free.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could always just throw him in. Joshua Kelly's also on the team. I don't know that I want to go there, but they're both options. I feel like they'd get 50% of the snaps each if
Yeah,
you
we
bring
don't
somebody
have a
up.
sample size this year of or yeah, we don't have a sample size this year of Tony and Tajay being out.
Right.
They both missed games, but it's either one or the other essentially. Um, but yeah, if he's out, then kind of insert and apply what we just said to them as well. It's not a great matchup, but again, if they're just not trying,
Yeah, and they're
it's a
free.
good spot,
I
and they're
mean,
free.
yeah, and then they would be free. But yeah, so who I'm sorry. And then we talked about Brian Robinson. We talked about
Isaac Rindo.
Isaac Rindo. Rico Dowdle is going to be, going up against Washington. That's one of the bringbacks that we could get to. And if we did go the Washington stack, I think he's an interesting
Yeah,
option.
Zeke got waived yesterday. Don't know why you just didn't wait 6 more days, but
Whatever.
is what it is.
Cowboys.
For the last 5 games, has had 100 yards.
Yeah.
You know, they CD's out for the year also. So if they're going to move the ball at all, you know who's getting the opportunities. He's had 25 touch upside in every single game essentially,
Mhm.
and pass catching possibilities as well. Yeah, he's just honestly, I'm surprised his price went down due to this. Commanders are playing for something, so if Dallas just doesn't try and they're blown out again, maybe it's a bad game script. But even though they lost by 34, he still had 24 opportunities. He still hit 100 yards.
Right.
So yeah, he's very, very safe at 5,800 to be honest.
The next group, I'm gonna just group them all together.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a little easier that way. We're gonna talk about DeAndre Swift, Damian Pierce because we expect Joe Mixon to sit, Antonio Gibson because I don't. I mean, he's
So-
starting over Ramondre right now
So
currently.
that was kind of a troll thing that it came out before the game that Antonio
Ramondre.
Gibson was going to start, Ramondre was going to sit because of fumbling issues, and guess who was on the field the entire first possession?
Ramondre. That's how
Ramondre.
it
But
goes.
he didn't play the rest of the game. He didn't have another touch. Antonio Gibson had all the touches the rest of the way. They just got blown out, so he didn't really do anything with it. But if the Bills are not playing, being at home, being a potential close game, 5,300, another cheap option.
And then you have Travis Etienne down here, who because we're trying to find running backs that are going to be in the game. That's the part of our job here is to early in the week find guys that we think are actually going to play. Travis Etienne will probably play. Ray Davis, if James Cook is out, which we expect, will
Yep.
play. Amir Abdullah, who has been a darling recently.
Yeah, last week
Weirdly a darling.
he just took over all the opportunities from Alex Madison. 62% of the snaps. He had 24 opportunities, had
Shredded
140 all-purpose yards. Didn't score, but 20 fantasy points. 19.5 the week before, 19.6 the week before that. Yeah, he been one of those kind of waiver wire league winners, and
yeah.
so he did pop up with the injury towards the end of the game. But again, if he's playing, really good spot. He's too cheap. Just kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I didn't expect. I didn't know he could take 20 attempts.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I didn't know he could do that. And then the last guy we're gonna mention is Carson Steele. If you expect Kansas City to sit players, they're gonna sit both Isaiah Pacheco, who's been injured all year, and then the old guy in Kareem Hunt. So the next guy up would be Carson Steele, and he is 4,700.
Yeah, 4,700, really cheap. It's already showing as a value down low in terms of RotoWire prices. He was already projected as the highest running back. Is what it is. I don't know if I have a lot of comfortability or faith with it because there's other options with better upside.
I'm just glad they
And I
priced
don't
him.
even know if you need to. Yeah. I don't even know if you need to go down that low,
Right.
Because of all the running backs we just mentioned. But he's worth pointing out.
Yeah, he's at least $700 more than I expected.
Yeah.
which is good, making people less comfortable playing him, right?
Yep.
But yeah, let's talk about some lines. Where do you want to start? Okay, I actually have a question that we normally talk about more so on showdowns.
Okay.
But how do you want to build these lines? Like, what do you want to do in these lines? Because I'm very comfortable playing 3 running backs everywhere
No,
we
I'm
go.
I'm
so.
in agreement with you on that. A lot of value down low, like we just brought up. There's not many receivers worth spending up on. Again, Puka Nacua is the highest projected, but I don't expect him to play.
Right.
It's Mike Evans or the rookie receivers. Nico, AJ Brown will also probably rest or be limited. So it's basically Mike Evans if you want to stack, and yeah,
Terry,
So
maybe.
maybe Terry, but
Yeah.
you saw what just happened if you invested in him on Sunday night. So the risk is kind of baked in at 6,800 for him.
Yeah. Where do you want to go?
Let's start with Let's ride the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wave.
Yeah, that's the one. It's gonna be the highest owned. It has to be,
Yeah,
right? So like
I would expect so.
Mike Evans is going in any lineup but Baker in. And
And do
then
we just kind of do what we did last week, where you just kind of spend up top and find value?
yeah.
You want
Yeah, I
to
think
go
so.
with Jalen? Let's pretend Kate Otten for fun is
Is
out again.
out.
There's options wherever you want to go. Obviously, everyone prospered
I
this past week.
think in in these lines, I'm going to get if I'm going with Mike Evans and Baker, I don't know that I want to go all the way up to Bucky.
Okay,
I'd rather just go to Bijan if I'm going to go high
gotcha.
at running back or JT or Josh Jacobs, whoever you want to go with up there, truly. But I think Bijan's my favorite.
And I expect this to change, but every single Tampa Bay pass catcher is below 10% owned. So I guess that's a little way of getting different. Is what it is.
Give me the AFC South this week. So which double is your favorite? I guess.
Let's go with Jalen McMillan.
Okay.
There's less. I have no idea what I really want to do with receiver yet. A lot of cheap guys that we can bring up and talk about, but nobody's projecting like a standout yet.
Right. All right, we're throwing Bijan in the line.
Okay.
I'm going
Would
to.
you like a bring back?
Yes.
Last time.
Yes, I
did
do,
not,
Cameron.
I did not have the right answer to that.
Yes, Cameron. There should be a bring back in this game. Adam Thielen is too much money. God dog it.
Yeah, he is.
Holy
62.
hell.
Projecting 14 fantasy points though.
Man, what did they do at running back? Just wondering. I never checked the actual stat.
Here, I think, had most of the snaps, but they were trailing by so much that, and it wasn't a great matchup. But he had 77% of the snaps compared to Mike Boone having the other 23%. So it was a two-man game. He's another guy worth mentioning if you wanted to, but I just won't.
We're gonna not stat. Damn! I can't get a bring back here, can I? We're not gonna bring back on our main stack or our freaking. Do you want to bring back from New Orleans?
Well, Kamara news unknown, but Kendrick Miller also got hurt, and then also Chris Olave. There's a possibility he practiced actually last week, but I just don't know if they would risk him.
It's not really worth it in my opinion.
It's not really worth it.
Foster Moreau, how about that guy?
Sure.
He had the touchdown. He's had 2 touchdowns last 3 weeks. 13 points.
Gross.
I don't know. Yeah, no bringbacks on either side. So let's just shove guys we like in the line. Defense. Who's going to play somebody not playing? That's the question.
That's kind of what I want to bring up. It's like who's playing somebody that's just resting.
The Giants.
New England stands out. Giants stand out. Down low. Cowboys had 2 defense/special teams touchdowns against the Commanders when they last played.
Crazy game.
Yeah.
I'd probably say New England.
Okay.
And it's at home. I'm not playing. Kenny Pickett's a better backup than whoever Buffalo has, basically, to me.
Well, excuse me. They have Mr. Trubisky.
Oh, Mr. Trubisky's starting. I'd probably side New England then.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
That was not the face I wanted to see.
Well, he came right in and scored as soon as Josh Allen went out last week. He has rushing upside as well. And last time we invested in New England this past Saturday slate.
That's true.
They gave up
-4
and -4. It's fun stuff.
It's gross down here. Is there somewhere higher that?
I would say let's go ahead and do the Giants because not only is Jalen Hurts probably not going to play, Kenny Pickett also got hurt. So it could be
true.
Tanner McKee without his receivers and Saquon. And if that's the case, then I don't know how they're going to put up points.
Okay. Running back wise, who we're playing a lot of what ifs, obviously, but what if do you want to actually run with here? Some of the cheaper ones are good options, or we could pay up top.
Well, you already put in Bijan. I like the idea of a Ray Davis.
Okay.
If everybody's out.
I'd expect.
Yeah, I think they would give him more look. I don't know why they wouldn't, but 5,200 just saves a lot of money going that route. Tight end wise, it's basically spin up or spin down. Brock Bowers, he is 9 receptions away from not a rookie record, the all-time tight end receptions record. If he gets 9 receptions this week.
Well, he already broke every rookie record.
Yes,
so it doesn't matter.
But also, Malik Neighbors is right behind him. They both broke the rookie reception record, and so they're kind of duking it out. But he's worth mentioning up top. Trey McBride finally caught his touchdown.
Thank God.
Almost caught 2 if Kyler didn't give him a headshot.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was crazy.
and then George Kittle, obviously we talked about, he's been killing it, safe as they come. Had 20 points last time they played.
Yep.
If we can get up top to one of these guys, I prefer that. But if you don't want to, I understand.
Don't have a ton of money. I don't know who's gonna be a perfect pay down option, who's gonna play and who's not.
I have some ideas with the Rams receivers.
Okay. Choo-choo.
Obviously with Puka and Cooper Cup don't play, then that just leaves opportunities. We saw Tutu have a safe 12-point floor when both of them were out earlier in the season. Jordan Whittington had a bunch of upside. They're both below $4,000. Those are guys that stood out to me. Just kind of painting the picture, but nobody's projecting like, oh yeah, you're too cheap. I brought up Kavonte Turpin on the live stream, and
Right.
he had opportunities, but didn't pan out from a fantasy perspective.
Isn't the quarterback for the Rams Jimmy G?
Yeah.
So investing in receivers with Jimmy G scares me because I expect Seattle to play some of their players.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only thing. Is
another mention we didn't bring up from a value perspective, but Blake Corum, maybe we finally like him
for week 18 when no one plays. Yeah,
he's actually projecting fairly high, and he's 5,600. So basically, DraftKings was anticipating a rest.
Right.
But being at home, Sean McVay likes to just run running backs into the ground when they have the opportunities. So
yeah, I'm
he's
down.
another guy. Sure.
I'll play Blake Corum this week. Shoot, yeah. Out of the fantasy and best ball like world now. Yeah, let's put some people in. Tight end wise, I think paying down is better in this situation.
Yeah, with
our current money too.
Let's see.
Which tight end?
So the highest value right now is showing is Tyler Conklin.
Okay.
Gross. And then Noah Fant, Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, I was gonna say Noah Fant's not bad. Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, let's do Tucker Kraft. I like Tucker Kraft.
Sure.
And shout out to all of the people that normally are in our live stream wanting Kraft.
And we'll also have to be keeping an eye on the weather this week, just because there's a ton of cold fronts coming in. I know it's going to get freezing in Texas, which I love, but only 32 is not terrible to most places. But I saw that there's some that could be in the teens during afternoon kickoff. Possible rain and raining and wind.
Tennessee's going to be cold when I go to the game.
Yeah, chance for rain or snow showers for you.
20-degree weather. It's gonna be
better
crazy.
Double hoodie up.
Yeah, don't tell Taylor that. Don't tell Taylor. But yeah, let's get a running back at our flex.
Okay.
Because we can find some good cheap ones down here. Blake Corum, like you said, we already shouted out a whole bunch of other guys. DeAndre Swift, if we wanted to bring back even for Tucker Kraft, Dameon Pierce. I don't care. It's cool to cheer on Dameon Pierce at the game. Where do you want to go?
Do you have a favorite download of all these options, pretending that all these guys are out, or in the situations that we want them to be in?
Amir Abdullah.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Sure.
Never thought that was going to come out of my mouth. 5,100.
Okay. We'll have to see what that affords us.
$5,000. Darnell. Oh no, Alec Pierce.
Yeah, run it back one more time.
Quinn Johnston. Don't hate that.
Alec.
Really?
Yeah.
I know you hate Quinn Johnston. It's crazy.
Well, it's not just that. It's just Alec. He's him apparently, and he's playing 90% of the snaps now.
Well, I think I'm more comfortable with him if Joe Flacco's in.
Well, I'm gonna pretend that AER is just
out.
Done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we could throw him in there. That's fine.
Sweet.
And that's our first look. I'd like to make another one with a cheap quarterback.
Okay.
Even knowing
how cheap, because we can go all the way down if we want.
Let's go all the way down.
Or we can go to Gino.
No,
he was the guy that was interested.
Let's do something crazy. Where is he?
He's at the bottom.
There he is. Sir. All right. So now we can afford a lot. That's fine. Yeah. Ricky 41. Do we want a Arizona player? Oh, well, we could go up to Trey McBride.
Double elite tight end? Question mark, exclamation point.
Yeah, that's fine. Not against it.
Marvin Harrison finally had targets last week.
I played him.
Yeah. It's just been frustrating to cheer him on because he has been really rock solid, and just will be shit on because of all the rookies having 1,000 yards and
not him.
But yeah, he might be a buy low next year.
Everybody's gonna actually, I can't even say we're gonna get shit on. Everybody had Caleb Williams at number one,
Yeah.
and everybody had Marvin Harrison at number one for their
Mhm.
position, respective positions. Marvin Harrison was possibly the number one overall prospect in the
He was our
class.
number one prospect.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I still
I
think
still
that.
stand by that. Yeah.
I just think the problem with him is he's kind of a beta.
Yep.
Like I watch him and he's a beta, and I need him to be an alpha, like life alpha, expression alpha, and he doesn't have that.
Mhm.
So we need him to, maybe he's just young. He's also 21 years old, almost 22. So that'll kind of do it sometimes. What would you like to do here? We have so much money, it's amazing.
Awesome. So let's go up top at a receiver.
How about this? Can
Okay.
we shove Bijan, Mike, and Lad, and then play a
Is that
running?
legal? I don't
Yeah,
think
I
that's
don't. Is
legal.
it too much?
Yeah, it might be too much.
Let's try real quick because I'd like to play those guys.
Yeah.
36. Okay.
Yep.
That's way too much. I didn't even.
Way too much.
I thought we had another $1,000 somehow. Okay. So you want to go where at receiver? Who am I shoving in?
Man, is there one that I mean, Brian Thomas,
That guy
right?
is pretty
He
great.
just keeps getting all the targets and touches, and it's inside, it's indoors, it's against Indy, who's awful at defending a lot of things. And last time they played, it was 37-34. Obviously, they had everything with Kirk and or actually Evan Ingram wasn't in, but Brian Thomas 5 for 122 in a score in that game. So, you know,
Yeah, I love Brian Thomas, so
Okay.
I'm down to push him in there.
sounds good.
All right, I just found $700.
Alrighty.
Running back wise, we don't have to go with Bijan. We can play any of these guys. We don't have a Tampa Bay player. That makes a lot of sense to play Bucky.
Okay.
I just found $1,500 for us.
Put in Bucky.
Please tell me I can play Lad. 5,100 is a mirror.
As a bring back.
In that game, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny, actually. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So if I
Yeah,
played
or-
Lad, throw him in there. You can put Amir Abdullah in there. Drake London. You don't have an Atlanta player. Drake London. You could also,
JSN 61.
yeah.
That leaves for Garindo as a bring back
Bring
to
back.
or I mean we already have a
Here.
San Fran player. But
Yeah.
I'm spitballing.
Yeah, just some thoughts. I mean, like honestly, this is
Yeah, just
perfectly
put Ladin
fine
in
with
the
me.
mirror and make you happy.
Yeah, why not, right? Tank Bigsby because they're not going to play ETN and you're going to be sad.
Yeah, I'm already over that one. But yeah, that's another look.
Yeah, this is I
You can
love
go-
playing Josh
You can go
Dobbs.
everywhere this week. Yeah, I don't really have a stand other than there's just running backs galore.
Yeah.
And pick a few and just be happy with it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we won't be doing a live stream this week just because we're both out of town. He's going to Tennessee. I'm going to Dallas. So no live stream. But we will be back for the playoffs, which will be starting the following Saturday. Probably do a live stream that morning if you're available. I don't know if you are.
We'll
but
see. Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
Well, yeah, we have everything's up in the air because everything is changing. So we'll just have to
Right.
see. But we'll
It's
get
a new
everybody
year,
out.
so who knows how this year is going to start off.
Oh yeah.
But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your stands. Tell us all that fun stuff. Join this community. It's been a great first season covering college and the NFL football. Wrapping up bowl season and about to start the playoffs. This is the best time to watch the sport.
Nice. Well, we're gonna stop sharing because I should have done that a second ago. Cam did a great job doing an outro there.
Yeah, I
I
did.
apologize
It's all
completely.
good, man.
But no, we appreciate y'all. Had a great 2024. We're almost to a year, and we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna kill this. Hopefully, we'll help y'all make some money. Today we have college football playoffs, which is also very fun because we are recording on Wednesday. We are right before the games because we're of course gonna try to watch them. So it's everything football is right now, perfect time of the year. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great time to be a football fan for sure. And then as soon as the season's over, it doesn't stop for us. We're going to be getting right into our draft coverage and
Yep.
scouting and start some games and intros, interviews. All of that's on kind of deck. And we're going to start brainstorming some ideas.
yep. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we will see y'all next time.